Very beautiful. If you don't mind, I'll interrupt after each little movement, just give you a couple of ideas. Beautiful control, beautiful intonation, and lovely phrasing. We're probably all quite aware that the interpretation of Bach is there are unwritten rules, but there are also huge scopes where there's absolutely no rules at all. And it changes significantly over relatively short periods of time. If you listen to recordings of great masters playing Bach in the 50s and 60s, it's not what we want to hear today. I expect in another 20 or 30 years there'll be other ideas about how to interpret Bach. One thing that I learnt about all of these suites is that they're a collection of dances. And even a saraband, which is a very, very slow and often very beautiful dance, needs to have some kind of a dance flow, some kind of a, and that's the only thing that I'm really missing from you. I think also it will help to enhance your performance because it will give it a little bit more flow. Everything's in place. It's beautiful, it's in tune, it's very well in tune, and you've got good bow control, but I sometimes find it's just a fraction static. And that's this dance movement. It's an incredibly slow pulse for a dance. And I'm no expert, and I unfortunately don't have the time to. There's probably YouTube channels that cover how these dances were actually achieved and how they were danced at the time. I'm sure they were very slow and very stately, but they were people moving in a musical way. And often with the slow movements of the Bach suites, I get lost. I just find, yes, it's beautiful to listen to, but where's the flow? Where's the music? And I'd like you to try and play it again, just with that in mind. The movements that they make are slow. Think of Tai Chi. It's constant movement. You know, it's slow and it's easy, but it's flowing. It's all the time it's there, and I think that will help your performance. Maybe just the first part, all right? We'll just have a listen and see what happens. If we just have a look at that, just simple, that little excerpt there. Yes, we have a little bit of a problem. The first time I heard this movement, I thought it was notated with an upbeat. I thought, and of course it's not written that way at all. So you have a little bit of an issue. How can we make these top notes sound important enough for the rhythmical structure, but not have too much emphasis? Because I think that every time the harmonic structure is confirmed on the third beat of the bar. So we don't need to have too much emphasis on the first beat of the bar. I'm just wondering if you can do that and see if we can get really the concept of a 4-bar phrase. This will help what I'm talking about with the dance character. If you dance, you are, as we do when we sing or when we play, you have a target in mind. You start a phrase, and I'm a big stickler for supporting phrases. Too many people start a phrase and then they lose the tension and it gets lost. It might be beautiful, it might be a beautiful sound, but if you get lost in your way, then that's a pity. I always start a phrase and think, okay, where am I leading to? Where is the next, you can call it a target point. In German they call it a heavy point, the heavy point of the phrase. And in the most simple pieces of music, you can always find out where they are. In the more complex pieces of music, and Bach is about as complex as it gets, you have to start using all sorts of tricks like looking for harmony changes, significant harmony changes, where the implied bass note might be completely different from where you started. That, for me, is a symbol of a heavy point of the phrase, and it would be where I'd be leading to. We don't have it really here. This is a different theme. This one continues, but goes for 2 bars. So I think we've got 1 bar, and then 2 bars leading to the C. A little bit less emphasis on the top, and see if you can get that 4-bar flow, which would really help if I were attempting to dance. Good, it's very much better. I get the impression sometimes that when you're doing a very slow bow, before a bow change, you slow it down even more. This dance concept I'm talking about is a flow that needs to be practically uninterrupted. So at the end of the 3rd bar there, you slowed your bow right down. Wasn't so hesitant, but if we can get rid of that hesitance and make sure that it really is a flowing thing. I'm happy because you didn't change your tempo. Very often if I talk about sarabands being too slow and too static, then people start playing them twice as fast. It's not what I'm talking about. Just flow. Don't change the speed of your bow too much, all right, until you arrive at a natural pause, which would be, for example, at the end of the 4th bar. All right, one last time. Really very good. I'm wondering how it might be possible to get a little bit more flow. The first 4 bars were lovely, beautiful, much, much better, because it's a constant sound, and I love this. You start a build-up here. Can I ask you to have a look at the way you control your bow division? Again, we're back into the realm of how do we interpret Bach? How much swell do we want? Do we want to create a real crescendo, or is it perhaps not necessary to be too full on about it? I just think that if you divide your bow up evenly and you're trying to get to this note as a most important thing, you're stepping on your own toes. Put my glasses on, I'm sorry. And all 4 of those 8th notes have exactly the same amount of bow, then I can't create any build-up of tension. So in a situation like that, both times I'd be starting this one with much less bow, and each 8th note that you go through should actually have significantly more bow. Significant just really means only half an inch, but each one really you should feel that, because that's what you want to do. I get it very clearly that that's your concept of phrasing, and it's very nice. But let the bow do the work for you rather than anything else. If you divide your bow up evenly into 4 8th notes, then the only way you can get a development in the sound quantity is by pushing, and then the sound won't there. So use the bow, so minimal bow there, and always more. Same thing again here, when you get to the tip. Really minimal bow, this much for the first note, that much for the second, that much for the third, and really use it, divide it out properly. Let's just listen to the last time from the beginning, just that first half, that's all I'm interested in. Very nice, really much better. It's got so much more flow, and that's what's interesting to me. So as I say, I love listening to great players play Bach, and it's the slow movements that are the real challenge. If you play a jig or a courant, then things are easier. I'm going to ask you to do, perhaps we'll choose the last movement, just have a listen to the jig and see what the differences are there in style. But there's the sarabands that get, and you think, oh, okay, beautiful, beautiful harmony, everything, but the greats, the true greats, manage to keep this slow movement flow, and that's really what you need to work for.